YouTube used to be the platform for creators, and in many ways, it still is. But right now, it's quietly becoming a landfill for AI-generated junk, or what's otherwise known as AI slop. It's the kind of content made by no one for no reason, except to game the algorithm and grab a few ad dollars, or in some cases, millions of ad dollars. This isn't a problem exclusive to YouTube. Spotify's being overrun with AI music, Twitter's flooded with bot accounts buying reach, and I don't even want to get started with what's going on Facebook or Instagram. But for this video, I want to focus on YouTube, because what's happening here goes way beyond just bad content. And I want you to know up front, this isn't about complaining. It's about money, media literacy, and the quiet shift that's happening right in front of us. AI slop is showing up in every niche, from gaming to music, movie trailers, true crime, and even business content. And I'll admit, I underestimated the scale of this myself, mostly because I've curated my algorithm to avoid this kind of content. But in doing so, I missed what millions of people are actually being served, and how fast it's spreading. Right now, I believe the average person can't tell if certain videos are AI generated or not. Whether it's an AI voiceover behind a faceless channel, AI generated visual assets, or even AI generated music. The fastest growing channel on YouTube over the last year has been this one, Masters of Prophecy. It went from a few hundred subscribers in February to over 31 million by June. This is according to Sherwood News. If you know anything about YouTube or a social media following in general, that stat is insane. Just for some context, it took Mr. Beast 6 years to reach 5 million subscribers, and then another 2 years to go from 5 million to 30 million. And that was after making 750 videos, and likely spending millions of dollars in the process. Now, this Masters of Prophecy channel achieved 31 million subscribers with less than 300 videos, and all of its content is AI generated. They post AI music videos, I guess, if you can call them that. But upon a closer look, it appears a lot of the comments appear to be bots themselves, and a lot of the views, well, let's just say they seem inorganic. Sherwood News also pointed this out, calling their growth, quote, suspicious, especially because the channel went from 300 subscribers to 100,000 in a single day, without new videos, shorts, or comments in that time. YouTube has a term for this kind of thing. They call it invalid traffic. And if YouTube determines a video is garnering invalid traffic, they can demonetize that video, or in some cases, terminate the channel entirely. As of the making of this video, that channel is still active. Now, there is a possibility that channel boosted views and perhaps subscribers by paying for traffic. In other words, they could be using their videos as pre-roll YouTube ads to push traffic towards their channel. And if that is the case, it's even more alarming that 31 million people are apparently stoked on AI-generated synth music. But to be clear, this is ultimately just my speculation from someone who's a creator myself and has been for years. Either way, Sherwood News summed it up pretty well by saying, quote, on a platform increasingly powered and populated by AI, what does inauthentic growth even mean? It's clear that YouTube doesn't want to answer that question. In many ways, it feels like it's hoping no one notices how popular AI content is, and if users and more importantly, advertisers don't complain, everyone will just keep making money. Now, I know some people watching this will be thinking, oh well, what's the big deal? It's just AI generated music. It's not hurting anyone. Certainly not blatantly misleading people like some other kinds of AI can do. And I will talk about some of those more dangerous examples in a moment. But this AI music does harm musicians and others who work in the industry. It's also soulless. It literally wasn't created by any musician or band. And worse, it's an aggregate that was compiled by some corporation that trained a model on hundreds of thousands of real songs. The model then used that data and spit out something that sounded familiar, but isn't really anything. It's devoid of any real meaning, of any real effort, and it's certainly not expressive. Come to think of it, maybe it shouldn't even be labeled as music. It might need its own word. But speaking of labels, as far as I can see, Nowhere on these videos does the channel or YouTube itself label this as AI generated, which is a complete and utter failure by both parties in my opinion. Because when uploading a video to YouTube, they have a box that the creator is supposed to check if the video contains AI generated content. You know, similar to that box that appears when you watch a video and it pops up and says, "This video contains paid promotion." Now that's due to an FTC guideline, but I don't think that I've ever seen a disclaimer box from YouTube on any of these AI videos. And it makes me wonder, is this a problem that YouTube actually wants to solve? I'll circle back to that question. Now I wish I could say that it's just AI music that's flooding this website, but it isn't. The bigger shift is already happening. According to CNBC, virtual YouTubers or Vtubers are now raking in millions of dollars a year, and increasingly they aren't just voice acted cartoons, they're entirely AI driven personalities. One of the guys who created one of these things was quoted saying, "Turns out the flaw in this equation is the human, so we need to somehow remove the human." You know that pesky little thing in the creative process, the human? I know they come up with the ideas and the vision and the execution of it all, but yeah, that's the flaw. This is the kind of thinking that makes me so enraged about this whole AI slop. And this person who created this VTuber only did so because he realized if he wanted to keep making millions of dollars playing video games on YouTube, he had to figure out a way to do so by including less of him. This isn't really a business you can scale. If it's you and you're the product and you are playing a video game or something like that, you can't just multiply yourself by 10 even if you have a team. It all boils back down to you and your time. You can free it up in other areas, but it's not like creating a product and then finding a supplier and distributing it. And so he essentially tried to train this AI model to replicate him or maybe even someone else while they play the video game. But later in the article, he said something quite profound. He mentioned that when he's posted fully AI generated videos on his channel, the results hadn't been promising because, and I know this will come as a shocker, but quote, "the AI still lacks the intuition and creative instincts of a human," he said. Okay, so some 14-year-old is out there watching an AI generated VTuber play Grand Theft Auto. What's the big deal? There are certainly much bigger problems in the world, and yes, I couldn't agree more, but here's the thing. Several companies are already spending billions of dollars trying to figure out how they can capitalize on all of this. Because if people want to replace themselves with AI, they need technology to do so. Ironically, Google, which owns YouTube, is actively participating in this with their AI video generator tool called Veo 3. The business model is quite simple. You pay these companies for a subscription and then they will generate the AI slop for you. It's one thing for AI generated slop to be making music or even be involved in video games, but it's another when people start using it to insert themselves into real events and make up stories around them. Over the last several months, people have been cashing in on the popularity of the Diddy trial on YouTube, especially when it comes to emotionally charged or culturally significant moments, many of which never actually happened. According to The Guardian, fake AI-generated thumbnails and voiceovers were used to create fully scripted videos about the Diddy trial. These weren't satire, they weren't labeled as AI, and they were presented as genuine video essay updates, often featuring other notable celebrities just to try to drive more clicks. They were designed for engagement and they misled people deliberately. What I find more troubling is that in a lot of ways, it seemed to work. On some of these videos, millions of people watched them. And I just have to assume a good portion of them probably thought they were real. Some probably didn't care, maybe some knew it wasn't real, but either way, these videos got recommended, got monetized, and then spread. That was until The Guardian started asking more questions. YouTube responded saying, "We terminated several channels shared by Indicator for violating our terms of service and policies covering spam." The Indicator was working with The Guardian on this article. Now here's what's also concerning. Some of those terminated channels weren't even in this niche. Like, they didn't cover previous legal cases or anything like that. One had been covering public pensions in Pakistan, and then suddenly started uploading AI-generated Diddy content. And they weren't alone. There were other examples as well. I'll source the article in the description. But as you can see, there's a pattern. When there's a high-profile legal case or something dominating the headlines, these AI slop channels come crawling out of the woodwork. And this is where AI slop stops being an annoying inconvenience and starts actively undermining how people process reality. Because if fake content can mimic real news, insert itself into criminal trials, and rack up millions of views before YouTube even notices, where's the line anymore? 404 Media highlighted a similar trend with AI-generated true crime videos. These channels scrape Reddit threads and court records, and they feed them through a language model, they narrate them with a cloned voice, and they use AI-generated video clips to make them look like they're from the 90s or the early 2000s when this fake crime took place. The videos show fake evidence, the stories are exaggerated, sensationalized, and outright fabricated. 404 highlighted how some of the top comments on the most popular videos were people speculating, assigning blame, and judging the made-up suspects. None of it was real. There was no sourcing, no accountability, just repackaged human suffering, flattened into some sort of fake true crime, algorithmic content. Now, one of the channels that they highlighted in the article was eventually terminated, but that doesn't solve this problem, because new channels pop up constantly, and unless you already know how to spot them, I guess they can just blend in with other kinds of content on the platform. And that's what makes this so dangerous. It's not just flooding social media platforms, it's accelerating the collapse of media literacy, which was already largely in decline thanks to social media even before AI. Now, I want to be fair, YouTube has responded in some of these cases, but it appears only after journalists or newsrooms reach out to them because they're working on a story. Of course, there are going to be channels that get terminated every single day, multiple times a day, that I or many others aren't going to be aware of. However, just by the fact of seeing other channels exist, it's clear that they're not just terminating all of them. The Verge recently reported that YouTube clarified its policy on AI-generated movie trailers, saying fan-made fakes aren't eligible for monetization. Now that's something. But as I've been harping on about, YouTube isn't enforcing its own AI disclosure rules, at least not from what I've seen. I can't remember one single time where I've seen this label applied to something that I'm unequivocally sure is AI. Now, the labeling system relies on users being honest when they upload something, which doesn't work when the people who are uploading this stuff are doing it specifically to mislead people. Also, there may be a potential reason why they're not checking that box. Maybe YouTube doesn't surface that type of content as much if that box is checked, although I can't be sure of that. Now, meanwhile, YouTube maintains the right to still run ads on those videos, even if the creator is demonetized or not part of the YouTube Partner Program. This is not something exclusive to AI, but it still applies to this AI slop. I've personally talked and met with people who work at YouTube, not about this issue specifically, but I want to say that I know that they genuinely care about creators. But I also know that Google is deep in an AI arms race. Search is under pressure. The company's dominance is being challenged by other AI companies, and it has to prove that it can keep up. So maybe YouTube's interests don't fully align with Google's broader AI ambitions, or maybe they do. Either way, there's a part of this that just feels way too big to contain, at least right now. The toothpaste is out of the tube when it comes to this AI stuff. But that doesn't let YouTube off the hook either. If AI slop is going to exist on this platform, which I don't think it should, then YouTube needs to get a lot better at least labeling it clearly and consistently. They need to figure out a better way to moderate this, not just for creators, not just for their bottom line, and not even just for the platform, but for the public itself. I mean, seriously, this stuff is already being used to manipulate people, to lie to them. And it seems that a lot of people genuinely don't know what's real anymore. The only silver lining I'm hanging on to is that more people are starting to wake up to it. There's this kind of class consciousness forming, the quiet realization that no, AI doesn't have to take over everything. And no, we don't have to accept the automation of creative work just because it's cheaper or easier for a handful of companies. From Hollywood to the music industry to even here on YouTube. I think there's more resistance out there than we may realize, but I also think regulation is already way behind. And if it stays that way, this problem is only going to get worse. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more about why Apple has seriously struggled with its AI plans, go ahead and check it out next. Thanks for watching.